Liah Vann covers LSU baseball and football for the Advocate newspaper in Baton Rouge. Can follow her on Twitter at LVan with 2 N's, at LVan_sports. And she's in Fayetteville right now as well. Liah, appreciate your time coming on Halftime today. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fired up about this series. Our Arkansas fans reserve a special place for LSU at the very bottom of their hearts. This is a huge rivalry for Arkansas fans, but I think they feel like they've had the edge these last couple of series that they've played against the LSU Tigers. But things might be a little bit different with Jay Johnson as the head coach. What are your impressions of Jay Johnson, a very successful head coach at a couple of other places, in his first year at LSU? Because this is, I picture LSU people being a little provincial sometimes, and this is someone that didn't have any Louisiana connections.
Yeah, and I think that was a huge, that was a piece that they were all skeptical about. I think they're starting to come more to terms with that because they're now hiring more and more coaches that don't have Louisiana ties, with the exception of Kim Mulkey, right? But, yeah, I think the LSU fans are very, very strongly opinionated, and they all think that they can coach. But, certainly with the messy defensive errors at the beginning of the season, they've been a little bit critical, and I think rightfully so when you have a team this kind of talent, and you see some of these errors that compile, and there are all these, lack of fundamentals. You're kind of like, okay, what's going on, And if there's a new coach, there's a transition. I think people forget that with any new coach, there's going to be a transition period, and I think that transition period extends into the season. But I think, as you compile wins, they start to go back on the Jay Johnson train. But with any fan base, the favorite coach is the former coach, right? Mm-hmm. We're all fans, and we all, inside, we always trying to think of the old days, and I think that's the thing. But I think they're starting to come around on Jay Johnson. I think they were quick to accept him too at the very beginning, even though that he had this West Coast ties. I think he made a couple of public appearances and really won them over with kind of his down to earth charisma.
Well, it says something about how he views this program. When you leave a program that you built and already was. Arizona's got 4 national championships. This is one of the really great programs in the history of college baseball. To leave that for LSU, it says something about how he viewed the program, and that's exactly the way that LSU fans view their program, as being the top of the pyramid in college baseball. But it's also a program that hasn't been to Omaha since 2017, and that's what they are all about. They can like him right now, but they expect to get to Omaha sometime in the very near future.
Certainly, and I think when you come right out of the gate, you lose an SEC series to Texas A&M. 2 weeks later, they lose to Auburn at home. That's 2 series that they've dropped at home, but now we're finding out that Auburn might be a better baseball team than we think. They just beat Vanderbilt last weekend, and it's 2-1 in the series. So I think there's that, and then there's the impatience of it all. I think every fan base across baseball, football, whatever, basketball expects instant change and instant success. And Jay Johnson, his first year at Arizona, took the team to the College World Series. Now, he inherited a good ball club, but he's doing the same thing here. So I think they're expecting that, this is the guy who's done it once. He's going to do it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Liah, LSU has been playing really well, obviously, now into the top 15 this last week. And one thing that really jumps off the page when you just look at the statistics and stuff of this LSU baseball team is their ability to hit. What are some of the key factors that Coach Johnson's kind of talked about as they're contributing to their ability to really get the barrel on the ball?
It's hitting, but it's also just being smart at the plate, right? There's also just taking quality at bats doesn't necessarily mean making contact, but also draining those pitchers, taking those free bases. They're number 1 in the nation in hit by pitch, which is kind of odd. But they're drawing the walks, they're doing all the necessary things so that they're not only not only lighting it up at the bat, but they're also draining your pitchers in the first couple of innings so that later on in the game, you can't make it through that lineup more than 2 or 3 times before they start making contact, right? Because you're worn out. I mean, if one guy takes 7 or 8 pitches to strike out, and then the next guy does the same thing, it's just kind of one of those. It's a tough at bat, and so that's something that Jay Johnson has really, really preached is we want to be tough. We want to be tough at the plate, and so that means you're not chasing the zone, right? You're playing smart, and so that's what's really allowed them to later on in games really get those hits, really get those extra base hits, and then you've also got a lot of guys further down the lineup contributing, and that is something you're not just waiting on the 4th guy. I mean, the 5th guy is the designated hitter, Braden Jobert. He bats 5th or 6th in the lineup, and he's leading the SEC in RBIs this year, and he's also leading the team in home runs. And then you've got a guy like Hayden Travinski who bats 8th or 9th, and he's 5th on the team in home runs, and he's got a third of the at-bats as all the top guys. And so he's been contributing. We saw freshman Josh Pearson, who got SEC Freshman of the Week. He had 2 home runs and a sac fly last weekend. So, it's not just the top guys, but the bottom guys who are able to contribute at the plate. And I think that's what's making this team so menacing is you're not seeing that everywhere else.
Mm-hmm. And Leah, your background being from Texas, like you, I haven't been covering the SEC on a day-to-day basis for, multiple years like so many other people in our markets have. And I remember the thing that kind of jumped out to me was I never truly understood what it just means more until I was surrounded by it every day. Have you had that feeling of, okay, when they say it really does just mean more, it actually does? You never understand it until you're in it.
I was in Starkville, Mississippi last weekend. I went to a very nice restaurant. I like to go to one nice restaurant in town. And I was sitting at the bar, and there was a college baseball game on the one television of the restaurant, and everybody was talking about it. And then everybody was talking about the game that they had just come from. Mississippi State was such a culture. And then now I'm here in Fayetteville, and the restaurant I went to last night, all of the waiters were season ticket holders and were asking me about LSU baseball. And I think it's just so different. Coming from Texas, I mean, I love a game at the Dish, right? And it's a great atmosphere and it's fun. But I'm not going to tell you that fan base cares about who is starting on the mound on a Tuesday night against Grambling State, which is exactly what LSU brings. And so people want to know about the third string, the guys that are sitting on the bench right now. I get people in my DMs hey, how come this guy hasn't played? I'm I forgot this guy's on the roster. I don't really know. I don't ask about him. And so they know the roster top to bottom, and they're dedicated. They love this sport, and they know a lot about it. They're niche experts, and I think it is really unique. And I love the fact that there is such a enthusiastic fan base for college baseball. I don't think you get that anywhere else.
Yeah, it feels like a little mini major league is what it feels like here, and I experienced that too. Taking over doing the radio broadcast. It seems one thing that's really been huge for LSU late, Leah. Pitching's been a strength for them in these last 10 games. They've won 8 of them. All 8 of those wins allowing 4 runs or less, and that seems to be a threshold for them. But their bullpen has had to pick up the pace a little bit, and I saw last week they were great against Mississippi State. So they might not have the best in terms of starting. I know they changed up the Sunday starter. Hilliard's been good. Money's been, so-so, but their pen has been really good.
The pen has really what has enabled them to stay in games, certainly. I mean, if we look at last week, Eric Razelman comes in with the bases loaded and comes away with no score in the bottom of the 7th inning. I mean, and the odds of that happening are very, very slim. Usually there's one guy who will kind of drive home. But, yeah, he comes in, and you got Paul Gervais, who Jay Johnson has said is probably one of his most important pitchers out of the pen because he just trusts him to get on the mound in really tough situations. And he's 6'10". His arm slot is uncomfortable. The man's a giant. But he closes out that game on Saturday with 3 straight strikeouts when LSU had just a 4-3 lead. And, he does the same thing again on Sunday. I mean, I think it was 2 strikeouts and a ground out to close out that game. So really, the bullpen has really been the strength of this team. Grant Taylor comes in for Sam Dutton on Sundays and usually will, play 4 or 5 innings. And, again, his brother is Evan Taylor on Arkansas. And so he's been pretty consistent too. And they're able to get out of bad situations. They're not flashy, right? Some of them can be. And Eric Razelman, Paul Gervais, those are your fastball changeup guys who will get all the strikeouts. But then you've got guys who are a little bit more crafty, like Grant Taylor, and they all have a unique look. And then Riley Cooper, even we haven't talked about, he's the one lefty that comes out of the pen, and he'll force that soft contact and allow the outfield to do the work that they should. And he also is just a different look. And so, yeah, I think people were not sure of what the pitching would look like, but a lot of these transfers that have come in, Paul, Eric, Riley, Bryce Collins were all transfers. Grant Taylor is a true freshman. A lot of these new faces, I think nobody really anticipated, and I think credit to Jason Kelly, also the pitching coach. He's done this before at Arizona State, and he's tasked all his pitchers to add a changeup pitch, and I think that's what's also really working for them.
So have you been over to Baum yet? I know the team was there practicing yesterday. You're getting a chance to see all the best college ballparks in America. I know you've obviously been at the Box, which is spectacular, and Dudy Noble, which is, I think, even better, and then and Baum, which is awesome as well. This has got to be a lot of fun for you.
It is really fun. I haven't been to Baum yet. I got in a little bit late yesterday due to flight problems. Shout out to American Airlines. Do not fly them. But yeah, I'm really excited. Everybody says these pulled pork nachos are like the thing to get at this ballpark. And I think I was at Mississippi State last weekend, and they said, you know what, I think Arkansas is my second favorite park in the entire SEC. And so I was like, oh, that's like a really strong statement. But Dudy Noble was a ton of fun. Florida has a new ballpark. I was there a couple weekends ago, and that was fun. I won't say the fan base is quite as dedicated as the two that I'm the two over here with Mississippi and with Arkansas, but I think we've got Vanderbilt, we've got Alabama, and next, and so yeah, I am kind of getting to see I'm getting a tour of all the best ballparks in the SEC. It's a fun job for sure. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I do have a football question. It has nothing to do with spring practice because I really don't care about spring practice. I think it's a waste of time for the most part. But has Brian Kelly's Southern accent got any better?
No, it is not. Okay. And I think he gave up on it. But he likes to make jokes.
Yeah, well, that was one of the best jokes that we had for about a week after that.
Oh, we ran with it for a while.
We had fun with it. We had a lot of fun with it. So did my family. Hey, Liah, appreciate you hopping on with us. It's really good talking to you. We'll see you at Baum later today.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs, sports info, and odds. Find all the latest sports developments, including this week's odds for the Masters Championship and the start of Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so join today. Learn why everyone is saying BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on popular sports and games. BetOnline, where the game starts.